Welcome to the Pause Between Us podcast, co-hosted by best friends Natalie
and Sacha. We're lifelong animal lovers and proud pet parents, and between us we share our lives with
cats Weaver and Murray
and Betty the Pug.
In each episode, we'll dive into the joys and challenges of living with our furry companions, sharing honest stories, laughter and sometimes a few tears.
We'll also bring in special guests to offer expert-backed tips and proven practices for keeping your pets happy, healthy and loved.
Please note some episodes may touch on sensitive topics or contain strong language. Listener discretion is advised.
And thank you for joining us.
Hello again.
Hello again, Nat. How are you doing?
Surviving this heat wave.
Surviving the heat wave. It's so hot. So damn hot. Well, it has been really hot. I know we start a lot of these podcasts talking about the weather, which is a very British thing, but I think it's justified this week.
Oh, definitely. Friday night was awful. It was really hot. I couldn't tell whether I had like a hot body. No, I had a cold body, but I had a hot head. I ended up going to get, in the middle of the night, a cold flannel. I got a flannel, run it under the tap, and then just stuck it across my forehead because I was just overheating. But it worked a dream. I left it on all night, woke up in the morning with it on.
Well, it's good that you still stayed on. You couldn't have moved about that much in the night.
No. So yeah. Thank God it's cooled off.
Thankfully. I mean, 35 degrees is hard. It's hard for our pets. It's hard for us. It's just hard generally. But before we go on to sort of keeping cool, I would love to, because I'd love to know about how you're keeping me from Murray cool. Yeah. We're really pleased to have a special guest with us today called Marilyn, who is from the Canine School of Trailing. We'll be introducing Marilyn in a short while. Our focus today is very much about the art of pet trailing, which is something very new to me, something I've not ever done before. But I say I've not done it before. Betty loves to sniff. So effectively, it's about scent work and working, training with your dog to not really learn to sniff, because dogs love sniffing and they know what they're doing, but actually maximising the power of their little nose.
Yeah.
To think about how you could build strong connections between dogs and handlers, positive reinforcement-based training and all that great stuff. So, yeah, it's about letting dogs do what they do best, which is follow their noses with purpose.
Yeah, I suppose if it gives the dog another little outlet and a bit of like interactivity and stimulation, it's probably going to be really good. Yeah, looking forward to hearing about it, actually.
Yeah, so looking forward to talking to Marilyn. But yeah, back to keeping cool. I mean, how have Weaver and Murray been doing in the
Do you know, they've not been too bad. And I was kind of thinking, I mean, they're really furry because they're ragdolls. So they've got really long hair and it's quite thick. I've been brushing them like a fiend the last few days to try and get rid of excess hair.
Yeah.
They've got a cool mat. They don't use the cool mat. We've got fans. They don't like to sit in front of the fans. They seem to like to find the hot spot. And sometimes they come upstairs. They're like, go downstairs. It's cooler downstairs. So, but they've been sleeping a lot. I think it got to them a little bit a couple of days where they've just been flaked out. But we've been giving them more wet food. We've been topping up their water bowls with ice cubes. And they've got 2 options for water so that they can pick if they're a bit fussy. And we have been putting the fans on. We're trying to keep the house as cool as it possibly can for us humans anyway. So hopefully it worked for them a little bit. Because the other thing we have been doing at night, as soon as the temperature drops, is get everything open, let them in the garden and let them have a little bit of the fresher air. So that's been quite a relief at the end of the night when we can just sort of let them out and let them have a little sniff about.
That must feel lovely for them.
I know.
Yeah, but it's funny, isn't it, how they're not sort of instinctively seeking out the cool options, like the fan.
I did think about this, though, because when we've got the heating on, we've got like radiator beds that they're literally attached to the radiator. And so when the heating's on, they are in them baking their heads entirely on there. So they probably can stand heat better than I can. But obviously it's the humidity because it gets quite sticky. So you've got to be really careful.
Yeah. Yeah, de-shedding's a good idea, though. Like you say, sort of removing some of that excess fur.
As much as possible. Yes, I've been doing it every day this week to try. But like I'm just trying to follow lots of advice online. I've been Googling, reputable organisations and, like even the RSPCA have got some stuff on their cats protection. So, like Kitty City, who we spoke to before, follow her on social media. So I've been looking at what she's been suggesting. So that's all been really good. And I'm doing pretty much everything that they say because I want to make sure that they have a comfortable temperature. Yeah. So, yeah. What about Betty? Because obviously Betty struggles with her breathing. How's that been
Yeah,
going?
it's been really hard for Betty. Really hard,
Oh.
bless her. I mean, she struggles in the summer anyway. So, yeah, it's always difficult. But because it's been so excessively hot, it's really, really bad. And I've been trying everything I can just to ensure that she doesn't get heat stroke. And just looking out for kind of like signs of that, but doing everything I can really to keep her cool. So no walks at all, apart from sort of taking her for a little wee first thing in the morning, because we're in a flat. So we've got to take her outside, but to her favourite pee patch. So not far at all. Like you, lots of water. We've got some doggy ice poles or ice pops or paw pops as they're called. So she's been having some paw pops. Yeah, we've got fans. She tends to like to lie on the cool sort of floor. So not on the carpet, but on the wood floor and on the tiles in the bathroom.
Oh, that's good.
And I mean, one of the things that I was sort of doing, which when I was looking it up, like you, looking it up online to get advice, I was sort of putting a towel, like a wet towel over her. And actually that's like not a good thing because a damp towel over a dog can trap the heat. So what you're supposed to do is put the like towel on the floor and let them lie on that. But like Weaver and Murray not going to it instinctively, Betty is not interested in lying on the wet towel. So I've had lots of wet towels everywhere and she doesn't want to lie on any of them, but she'll let me put a wet towel over her. But then when I read that you can't do that because it's not good, so I stopped doing that. And yeah, my neighbour was talking about getting a paddling pool out. And I said, I'm going to bring Betty along for that because she will sort of stand in water. She's never really enjoyed swimming. But yeah, that hasn't quite happened. But I have put Betty in the shower several times. That's and good. Just let some sort of cool water fall on her, and that helps. So yeah, it's been tricky, but we've been keeping our windows closed, curtains drawn to kind of make sure it doesn't get too hot in the flat. But yeah.
I know it was tough because we went to a wedding on Friday, and I was really anxious because I was like, we're going to be out for 5-7 hours maybe, leaving the house kind of locked up. But we did the same thing. We did all the curtains, we did all the blinds. I left 2 fans running so that the air was at least moving. But when we came back, the house was very stifling and we immediately opened all the doors and let them out. I mean, they came over to us fine. They didn't seem lethargic. They didn't seem sort of drained or anything like that. They weren't panting. There was nothing visible to say they were struggling in any way, but the house was really stifling. And as soon as we got out, they were kind of in the garden having a little look around. But it made me just like, I don't think I can leave them that long again because it did get quite still in the house. Although I don't really know what we would have done differently because we would have been in the house as well. But it's quite interesting because it was a lot cooler outside before we were able to get home. So just always be really careful and cautious. So we did as much as we could, but I'm not going to do that again. I think if we were going to be out, we'd come back a lot earlier so we were ready to open up when the temperature dropped.
So I think the other thing just to say that I've been keeping an eye out on is when Betty has been going out for a quick pee stop is checking the temperature of the ground and the pavement. I think most people tend to do this, but yeah, they can get very hot. And they always say, basically, if the ground is too hot to touch with your hand for 5 seconds, it's too hot for paws. So do look out if you're going on walkies over the next few weeks, because I think it is going to actually go back to being hot again. I mean, it's slightly dipped today, but I think we're going to go back into a heat wave probably now for the summer. But just be aware of kind of your dog's limping or refusing to walk, licking or chewing at their feet. Their pads are darker in colour. They're missing part of the pad, which sounds really painful. Or there's blisters or redness, because that can be because the pavements are far too hot. But I'm sure all our doggy listeners out there are already aware of that, but that's something I've been checking daily with Betty's paws. So
they're saying a dog won't die or, from missing a walk. It's not the end of the world.
Exactly. But
risking going out in the hot weather and them getting heat stroke is more of a
it's
risk.
Not worth it. So stay cool, everyone. Stay safe. Thank you for listening to us today. And we hope you enjoy the chat we're about to have with Marilyn. So, shall we connect with Marilyn and get going with that one?
Let's invite her in.
Yeah, let's invite her in. So hi there, we're pleased to introduce Marilyn Gilchrist today, who is an animal training instructor from the Canine School of Trailing, registered with the PACT and the ABTC, and has a whole host of qualifications to her name, which I'm sure she'll talk us through. Marilyn's dog training journey started in 2016 when rescue dog Lola came into her life, and I'm sure she'll tell us more about this, but I think it's fair to say that Lola developed fear aggression towards other dogs after being attacked. Marilyn started researching in earnest how best to help, and a passion in dog training and behaviour developed. So one of the things that we're really keen to talk about today is Marilyn's use of dog trailing, which is a scent work sport and search activity where dogs follow the unique scent of a specific person or animal. Not only is it fascinating to watch, but it can also be brilliant for building confidence in nervous or reactive dogs. So without giving too much away from me, because I'm not the expert, but Marilyn is, Nat and I are really pleased to introduce you today to talk more about your background, your passion, and also the trailing work. So yeah, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Pleasure. So tell us a bit about you, Marilyn, and your dogs, your background, and the dogs that you have.
Yeah, so the dogs I currently have are Scout, our Staffordshire Bull Terrier, and Jem, who is a standard Dachshund cross Chihuahua, cross several other breeds. Not deliberate, he was a rescue, and we call him a spicy Dachshund for short when anybody asks what he is. But yeah, both are rescues. Scout came into our life at the start of COVID, so first lockdown, and she was found straying on the streets. So she'd been astray for about 2 weeks, and she was picked up by the rescue that I volunteered with. And so I immediately stuck my hand up to foster her and picked her up, and just immediately knew that I was in trouble. He was this tiny little brindle staffy who just looked terrified, but also very excited at the same time.
Oh.
So we got her checked out by the vets, and it turned out she was about 12 months old, had recently had a litter of puppies. We don't know what happened to them.
Oh.
And she was just in a bit of a state. But she was so open to being loved and being part of a family. And within about 24 hours, my husband declared that she was staying.
Oh.
So he grew up with brindle staffies. So that's why as soon as I saw her, I thought, oh, here we go. But she just felt like family. So she stayed with us. And Scout, in a lot of ways, is quite typical of a staffy in that she doesn't really care much about other dogs. She generally just acts like they don't exist. And the only change to this was when she first encountered 2 miniature Dachshunds in matte yellow raincoats. She just thought they were the most amazing thing that she'd ever seen. And she did loads of play bows, lots of spins, and did everything that she could to entice them to play. And from that point on, she was hooked on Daxies. So she just, whenever she saw them, would get so excited. So we kind of always knew that if we ever did add to our family and get another dog, that might be our best bet. So when Jem came along, and it was my friend and business partner Rachel who tagged me in his little puppy rescue post, he just felt like he was our dog. And fortunately, the rescue agreed. And so, yeah, Jem came home, and he's been with the family now for 2 years. So he's just over 2.
Oh, lovely.
I'm not sure Scout's as crazy about Dachshunds anymore.
How'd it feel already?
I think having put up with Jem through puppy and adolescent phase, Scout's a bit like, well, I probably should have kept my powder dry on that. But then, yeah, they do get on. They're quite cute together. So yeah, that's
like,
the I have now.
Well, it'd be like me and my niece and nephews. Like, I don't have kids, so it's nice when the niece and nephews come because then I can give them back. So that's probably what Scout was thinking.
Yeah, she's like, it's been 2 years. How long is he actually staying?
And the rest is history now, then, I guess. And what about you? Tell us a bit about your background.
Yeah, so I have a background prior to dog training. I worked in communications in a bank, and it through a sort of turn of events, we decided to get a dog. So we were actually broken into when we were asleep upstairs, and out of nowhere, as we were waiting for the police, my husband just said, if you still want to get a dog, I think we should go and get one. And I was just like, this the right time to discuss this, after something so traumatic? But also while saying that, I immediately started to search on rescues.
Light went.
The green light went, and even as I was going through the motions of arguing against it, I was immediately searching. And I'd grown up with collies, so I was looking for a sort of collie in rescue. And we found one not too far away called Sam. So we decided to go and have a look at him. And as we started walking towards Sam's kennel, we walked past this big mix of sort of bull breeds type dog called Lola. And she just caught our attention, and we were like, saying hello to her, and then carried on to Sam's kennel. But there was already a couple there meeting Sam. And so my husband and I just looked at each other and went, we think Lola's our dog.
No.
And it's one of those moments where I get emotional just even thinking about it, because, she probably wasn't anything that we were, I guess, looking for. But she was perfect for us anyway. So she was 18 months old. She'd been in the rescue for about 6 months. And yeah, she straight away just sort of fit into our family, and everything was going great until she was attacked by an off-lead dog. And unfortunately, it's one of those things sometimes with dogs where sort of one big negative event, it just sticks with them. And it did with Lola. So after that, she didn't want other dogs around her. And obviously, I think because of her size and the type of breeds that she was, that looked a lot scarier for people than, if, for example, Jem, if he was to act the same way that Lola used to act, people probably wouldn't even look twice at him.
Yeah.
But, I immediately thought we've got to get on top of this. I didn't really know what I was doing. And so I started doing a lot of research, came across a lot of trainers who I would say didn't really have help. And some trainers who gave advice that, when I later researched from what I know now, was blatantly wrong. And that was quite an eye-opener as well, because at that point I just assumed that if somebody said they were a trainer, then they would have experience and qualifications and things like that. Obviously, I then learned that it's completely unregulated. Anyone can say they're a trainer. And I was fortunate enough to eventually land on some really good trainers and behaviorists who helped us with Lola. And along the way, I also was looking for other activities that I could do with her, because she was a young dog. She was intelligent, and, I wanted to spend time with her out doing things. But understandably, a lot of training classes just weren't suitable for her. She wouldn't be able to go into a village hall and be happy with other dogs around her. And then there was a trailing workshop, a man trailing workshop. And I messaged explaining about Lola and kind of waited for the, no, sorry, it's not suitable. And instead it was like, yeah, absolutely, just book on. And I was like, what? And we went along and we loved it. And so from that point, we were kind of hooked on trailing. And, we did more and more of it. And unfortunately, we lost Lola when she was very young. So she was only 4. And she passed away from lymphoma.
Oh.
Which was, devastating for us. But I think the thing that Lola gave us was a love for trailing, but she also opened the door to, many more rescue animals that have found their home with us. I think she taught us that you've just got to give it a go and say yes. So yeah, Lola she turned our world upside down. And my husband and I always say, thank goodness she did. We're living a completely different life now. A much better one. So
That's
she's
amazing.
Left her legacy with us.
Yeah, Lola's legacy. I like the way they stay with you, that animals they're not just these beings that kind of float in and float out of your life. They really can make a massive impact and change who you are and how you feel about things.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, isn't there? From all different kind of angles and thoughts. My brain's sort of whirring here, thinking, yeah, there's subjects there around like rescue and then thinking about pet loss. And then you mentioned that you worked in communications and you're now obviously a trainer. So that kind of career transition. Yeah, there's lots going on in that time. I mean, what then got you into the sort of training side of things in terms of getting qualified yourself? How did you sort of find that switch from communications? Because I work in comms as well. So get it, love dogs as well. I'm kind of like, maybe one day could make the switch. But yeah, what did you do? What steps did you take?
Yeah, so just from finding out more ways to help Lola, I became more and more interested in dog training, and I started to do some sort of lower level courses just to build up my own knowledge. And at that point, it was just with a view to help Lola more. And then I got the opportunity to take redundancy, which I jumped at, probably a bit too enthusiastically. But yeah, I was in my 40s at that point. So I was sort of like, if I don't follow my dream and passion now, then, will I get another chance to do this? So I left, and a lady who ran the dog walking company that we used was looking for some ad hoc help. So I sort of stuck my hand up and, can I come do that? And, I do think dog walking is a great way. It's a skill in and of itself, like it is a profession, but it's also such a good way to learn how to manage and work with and be around different dogs, different ages, different breeds, different temperaments. And so I did that for a while, and then COVID hit. So everything stopped. And that's when I thought, well, I've got this downtime. And I did a dog trainer course and, had lots of chats with my husband about what direction to take. And, of course, imposter syndrome always pokes its head up and you think, yeah, I'm going to do this. And then you go to bed and you wake up at 2 a.m. and you think you're absolutely crazy. What are you doing? There's no way anybody's going to book you. And, but you sort of just you wake up again in the morning and go, okay, well, let's try again. So I got my first qualification and, just slowly started to build up my business, and then had the opportunity to learn how to become a trailing instructor. And from doing that, it very quickly became, that's my passion. That's what I want to focus on. And fortunately enough, as I was learning to become a trailing instructor, so was Rachel. And we struck up a friendship first. And then after we were walking around the field with our dogs, I think it was me had this offhand comment of, well, we could just start our own business.
Amazing.
And that's how the canine school of trailing came into being, really.
That's such a great story, because for everybody listening, how you can change your career in later life. And me and Sacha sort of at that point, and we're sort of like, thinking about your passion and thinking about what drives you. It's just such a kind of great story for other people to hear, that you can kind of go and follow your dream. And you did it, you and Rachel, who's been on before, who, for anyone who's listening, she came on and did Nose to Trail. So it's worth sort of mentioning that for people. So yeah, great that you met each other and were able to sort of start something up.
Yeah, definitely. And because we live quite close to each other, there was that initial bit of, God, of course there's somebody else doing this that's not too far from me. And we were like, so how do we do this?
Make it work for both of you.
Well, yeah. And then Rachel just looked at the map and went, do you want that side of the M6 and I'll take this?
So
yeah,
please.
It's a story that will resonate with many women or men that are thinking of a career change in midlife. And yeah, finding your sort of allies, finding your champions, I think is really important. And it's something that Nat and I are very mindful of. And that's one of the reasons we're doing this podcast as well, is just reaching out to other like-minded people who really care about animals and thinking about how can we build our network and what can we learn from others who are doing some amazing things like yourself. So thank you for sharing that story. It's really good to hear that you've made such a go of it and it's really successful. Tell us a little bit about the trailing side of things then. I introduced it very briefly with my limited knowledge, but it's an area of sort of dog training or activities with dogs that I don't know much about. So tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So in trailing, we're guiding dogs to follow a specific scent trail to find either a person or an animal. So we teach both. So we teach man trailing and pet trailing. And in our sessions, that animal is typically a dog, just because obviously it's easier to get a dog to lay a trail with you than trying to bring your cat along. Or, I'm sure one of my cats would love it, but the other two not so much. And dogs will follow scent trails all day long. And so all we're really doing is saying, if you follow this one, then you'll get a lovely reward at the end of it. And because the act of following that scent trail is self-rewarding for dogs, then you don't actually have to work too hard to convince most of them to do it. Then when they find the person or the dog at the end, they get a nice reward, and that just helps them to want to do it again and again. And it builds that optimism. So if I do this, then I'm going to find something lovely, and that's a great thing. And because of all that, it's really good for building a dog's confidence. So we get a lot of more nervous dogs or dogs with behavior quirks who come along to sessions, and it's such a nice thing for them to do. It's good for the dogs to do because they build that optimism, that confidence. They start to become happier in environments that maybe worried them before.
Oh.
So there's all of those amazing benefits for the dog. But then you also see handlers and guardians of the dogs who maybe haven't been able to take part in group classes before. So a bit like me with Lola, who all of a sudden have a community of people around them who absolutely get what they're going through, will listen when, they sort of say, oh, please don't come too close to my dog, or my dog doesn't like this. And they listen to that and they never judge. And I think that's one of the things that surprised me about trailing is the community that builds up around it and how lovely and supportive it is for everybody. And it's such a lovely thing to see that not only are the dogs loving it and enjoying it and getting something amazing out of it, but the people are as well.
That's a really interesting thought, Marilyn, because a friend of mine has a dog that she's struggling with and feels quite, in some ways, isolated because the dog can cause difficulties. And so she feels like people are judging her and she can't go into certain public spaces, and she's nervous people aren't happy that the dog's barking or lunging. And knowing that there's a community around of other people who understand the problem and understand where it's coming from and why it's happening, and not judging necessarily like you're a bad parent, you're not looking after your dog correctly, your dog's vicious, not having all of these preconceptions. I can see that being a really good tool to help people and get through together with the dog as well.
Yeah, it's really powerful when you see it happening, because in trailing, all the dogs are worked individually. So we typically would have 4, we call them teams, on a session, and each dog gets their own individual time out doing their trails. And so you can have, we've had dogs that have to be muzzled because they've got bite histories. We've got dogs that are really reactive around other dogs, all sorts of things, who can come onto a trailing session and get to do this amazing activity. But their guardian also gets to hang out with other people. And if this great example of somebody who joined me for the first time, and she got out of her car and immediately started to apologize for everything that her dog was about to do. And it was, they're probably going to lunge and bark and be noisy. And I was like, okay. And then one of my other customers said, yeah, mine's like that as well. And then the person next to them said, yeah, my dog's going to do quite a lot of that as well. And then everybody turned to the last person and they went, yeah, all right, my dog's a bit like that. And you could just see them physically relax.
Yeah.
When it was, no one's going to judge you because they're just worrying about their own dog, to be honest. And that's a great part of it. It's such an inclusive thing to do. We can tailor trails for all types of dogs, but also for people. So I've had somebody in a wheelchair came and did a session with me. I've got a lady who's had a double hip replacement. We do trails for her. Everything is so adaptable in trailing.
Yeah. And I mean, I wish more people maybe knew about trailing as something that they can do with their dog if their dog's a bit reactive or anxious or fearful. Seems like it's a fairly new concept, but if you started sort of getting involved in 2017, was it? I guess it's been
Yeah.
around for some time now.
Yeah, and it's, I suppose, as an actual activity, it's been around, for hundreds of years in terms of
Yeah.
dogs following scents to find things. Man trailing as an activity for dogs is, I would say, in terms of the history of dogs, is relatively new. So it has been around for a while, but like you say, not many people know about it as a fun activity that you can do with your dog. And we're on a bit of a mission to change that.
Yeah, but I think even not as an activity, even as a solution to, like you said, some of the behavioural problems, and making them feel more confident and maybe getting them over some of the reactivity that they have. Like, I never knew this. The idea of trailing I kind of was aware of, but didn't know how beneficial it could be. So it's great to hear you talk about how dogs and their guardians can get a lot out of it. It's great.
I was reading actually a newsletter from a dog charity that I support here in London just this morning, and it was saying about how Dachshunds for them are the main breed that they, in terms of dogs being given up to them, is sort of the top of the list, because they are used to going out and doing those things. That's what they're bred for.
Yeah.
And they're probably not getting the opportunity, and it's impacting their behaviour.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they were kind of originally bred to work in groups following scent trails independently of people. So, that's what you're bringing into your home. And when they completely ignore you because they're off following a scent and sniffing and doing their own thing, they're kind of just being true to their genetics. They're not the type of dog that has been bred to, constantly look to the human for guidance on what to do, which often gives them the label of being stubborn. And, dogs aren't capable of being stubborn. That willful, well, I want to do it and I want the reward, but I'm not going to just because you want me to. Although it might feel like that at times, and I completely understand that, it's not actually something that they're capable of. And, I've got to be honest, I think without trailing, we would have struggled with Jem. When we hit adolescence with him, he just switched off completely. But we kept getting him out trailing and doing that with him and building the bond with him. And, I've had to switch how I train. Scout has spoiled me because she just wants to work for you. She'll throw out all her tricks and what do you want me to do? And what do you want me to learn now? And I'm here for you. Whereas Jem just looks at me and you can sort of see him looking going, why? Why do you want me to do that? And, it's just about finding what motivates them and working with them. But yeah, I think they're small and they're cute and they're lovely, which is why I think they're so popular, but they are working dogs.
Yeah.
And they've been bred. They're scent hounds at the end of it.
Marilyn, you talked about man trailing and then scent trailing. Explain those differences or activities that we're doing that's there.
Yeah, so we've got man trailing and pet trailing. So man trailing is just looking for the person, and then pet trailing is looking for an animal. So we do train with them looking for dogs, but it is, interchangeable to any animal, really. They're pretty much the same activity. We are just lazy and shorten it to trailing. Constantly saying man trailing and pet trailing. The main difference between them is when we're doing pet trailing, the dog that is searching doesn't go up to the lost dog. So when we're doing man trailing, when the dog finds the person, they go up to them and they get the reward from that person. When it's a pet trail situation, the search dog will stop a few meters away from the lost dog and then turn back to the handler to say, that's my dog.
Okay.
Give me my reward now.
Yeah.
And we do that because it's based on actual lost dog search work, where you wouldn't want the search dog running up to the lost dog and saying, okay, I found you, give me my chicken now, please. You have the assumption that any dog that's lost is going to be terrified and in survival mode.
Yeah.
But this is why it works so well for dogs who are worried by other dogs, because that distance that we stop them can vary depending on what works for individual dogs. So it could be a couple of meters away, or it could be 10, 20 meters or more away. It depends on what works for those individual dogs.
Yeah.
So you start to build up that optimism with them around about, okay, so I can be close to another dog, and not only does nothing bad happen, but actually I get a tub full of mackerel or chicken or, whatever their reward is. And so they start to relax more around things that previously worried them, which is why it's so great. But
I was going to say, yeah, that's why it sounds really like accessible and inclusive to like any animals. So it feels like, you can tailor your approach depending on the kind of needs of both the guardian and the dog, right?
yeah, absolutely. There's kind of no part of it that we can't switch and change up to enable either adaptions for the dog or for the guardian, and it's not the first time I'll get an inquiry and I'll be like, yes, of course, come and do it. And then I'll phone Rachel and go, so I've said yes to this. How do we do it? How do we make it work?
And on that, how you make it work, how do you get started then? How do you transfer the scent from, say, the dog or the man to the dog so they know what they're looking for? How does that bit work?
So really easily, dogs' abilities to, pick up scent and remember it, that scent memory, is astonishing. And so, for example, if we're doing a scent article for a person, then the person who's hiding could literally just pick up a pen, hold it, and then drop it.
Oh, wow.
That's it. That their scent is then on the pen.
Yeah.
And that's all that's needed. We just then point to the pen and ask the dog to sniff. They'll sniff the pen and then they'll follow that trail. And the trail is simply from that person walking. So as they're walking, scent's pouring off them. Even if you've had a shower, there's still going to be scent pouring off you.
Amazing.
And that's what the dogs pick up on. And that's what they're able to follow. When it's a dog that we're looking for, very, very similar. Sometimes we'll rub a tissue on the dog, or we'll take their collar, or there might be a dog blanket. We've also done it where the dog's jumped out the car and then we've got the search dog to come and sniff the area outside the car where the dog's landed. And they've been able to pick up on the scent and follow the trail. So it really doesn't take much at all. You don't need to be, sort of wearing something for days on end to then give the scent to the dog. It's quick touch and done.
Wow, I can see a whole nother podcast coming along around the power of scent or the science of scent with all dogs and their noses and how that works. But
well, there's this the whole thing we were saying, weren't we, about like scent can go through water. So when you see, or when these police dramas and thrillers where the scent stops, tell us a little bit about that, because I found that so fascinating.
Yeah, so Rachel and I love playing around with things and, what can we test and what can we see if the dogs can do. And so when we were in Wales, I think it was in October, with some people, we were like, right, we're going to try some water trails. Rachel's a wild swimmer. She was very quickly volunteered to be the one going in the water.
Wicked.
Well, we got her to go into this river and walk upstream. So as she was walking in the middle of the water, her scent was going into the water and then obviously flowing downstream and away. But also scent will drift and it likes to cling to damp vegetation. So it will, as it drifts, it'll go onto the bank. So you've got scent in the water that's coming downstream, but it will kind of cling to the riverbank, trees, rocks as you're going down. So, kind of whatever you're walking past. And so then we started, I think we had about 6 dogs and we tried them all and they all managed it. Amazing. And these are dogs that are doing it for fun. These aren't trained police search dogs. And it was really interesting because you had some dogs who obviously loved water. And as soon as they realized that the trail was in the water, we're like, brilliant. And
I'm in there.
As we're sort of, trying to stay upright behind them. And then you had other dogs who realized it went in the water and then looked at the bank and were like, okay, well, I can follow it on land. I think those handlers were a little bit relieved. But yeah, for the ones that do, it can be fun trying to follow them.
Yeah, sorry if we spoil any of your favourite thrillers there with the dismissing that myth of they can't.
Yeah, the dogs are too clever. I think it would have to be a very large river for the dog just to completely lose the scent because, they can air scent, quite a distance as well.
Wow. How long do sessions typically last?
So they're about 2 hours.
2 hours, yeah.
And everybody takes turns at trailing their dog, hiding. You can follow on. And we always leave one person with the cars. So we all park together. And it means that the dogs that aren't working can stay settled and rested in their car. And you've always got somebody there looking after them. You get a chance to do everything. Dogs typically will get 2 trails each. And it's amazing how tired they are after that. And, we often will get sent pictures of dogs just absolutely crashed out, fast asleep. And even the breeds that people say can never be tired out get tired after trailing. So if you have a super energetic puppy, adolescent dog, and you think, I wouldn't mind a few hours peace, then take them trailing because it mentally is a great activity for them and they sleep very well afterwards.
Yeah, and a few sort of dog moms and dads have said this to me before, but there's something really satisfying about seeing your dog tired in a really positive way because that you've worked them physically and mentally, and hopefully they're a tired but happy dog, and it's just a nice feeling. I know I get that if I take my dog for a walk and she's sniffing and she's really enjoying the process of just being out and about, and then she's tired. I'm like, I feel like I've done something good for her because she's really enjoyed it.
Yeah, you've met her needs, which is amazing. And, and seeing your dog do something that makes them so happy. I had a great example this morning, actually, of a toy poodle, this tiny little thing. And she hadn't done any trailing for 3 years. And I'd never met her before. And she came along. And as soon as she sniffed the scent article, she shot off. Like I almost had to run, which I did not appreciate, but she shot off and found the person so quickly and just looked so happy.
No.
That I think we were all a little bit emotional, and, that her guardian was just like, this is what's been missing because she loves it so much. And I think, again, completely dispels the myth that you can't do stuff like this with small dogs. They absolutely can benefit from having a little job to do and getting out and about.
And I think when we talked before, you mentioned there's some online training that you can do. So if you want to learn yourself as a pet parent or a dog mom or dad, and you want to do some training and you want to learn how to do it yourself first, is that right? Have you got some online courses where people can learn?
Yeah, absolutely. So we run instructor courses and we would love to have instructors all over the UK, and the world, so that everybody has an opportunity to trail. But, while we're waiting for world domination, we'll pull together a short course called Teach Yourself Trailing, which gives you enough information just to get out there and start to do it with your own dog. So you can grab some friends, ask people to hide for you and things like that. And you can just give it a go. And so it talks you through how to get started with man trailing, how to introduce pet trailing, and then how to, make it more difficult for your dog. And so that's available on our website and it's just £10. So we've deliberately just priced it low because we just would love every dog to have the opportunity. And, we don't really want cost to be, a factor
A barrier. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
So yeah, Teach Yourself Trailing.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a go, and I hope you can find an instructor for London. I think we've talked about that. You said you're on the case, or there is someone planned, but I'd love to.
We
get
do.
involved
We
with
do
an
have
event.
a student in London, but yeah, if you're a dog trainer in London, you have a large audience there. You have people who want to do this. So yeah, get in touch with us, and it's a great thing to add to your business.
But so if people want to find out a little bit more about the Canine School of Trailing and to learn a bit more about the sessions you run, how can they find you?
So they can head to our website, which is thecanineschooloftrailing.co.uk. And on our homepage, there is a map that has all of our instructors and also student instructors on there. So even if you don't have somebody qualified in your area, if you've got a student instructor, you can still reach out to them to say, if you're running classes, let me know. If there is nobody near you, then you can get the Teach Yourself Trailing course, which again is on the website. You can just purchase it through that and you get immediate access to that. So it's £10 and available on our website.
Oh, that's so good.
Brilliant.
We've got a variety of different ways that people can get involved and help themselves and help their pups. So it's so good. So reach out, everybody, and follow up for more information. Get in touch, and hopefully be able to help your little relationship with your.
And if you do start trailing, or you're interested in just trailing, then we also have a Facebook group for people who trail, just to join. And there's instructors on there, but it's just a place to just share stories and your journey and things like that. So that's just again the Canine School of Trailing. I think it's Man Trailing Group. But if you search on Facebook, it's there. So that's a little online community for people as well.
Brilliant.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for coming on today and sharing your story, a bit about you and your dogs and your background and just, how trailing works. It really is fascinating, and definitely going to encourage some of my friends and family members to think about doing it with their reactive doggies. Giving us lots to think about. So thank you, Marilyn. Really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Thank you for having me. And I could talk about trailing all day long. So
can really sense your passion. But good luck with everything, and good luck with expanding what you're doing and that world domination. We shall kind of follow your journey very closely, and we'll be cheering you on.
We will. Thank you so much for coming. Take care. We'll see you soon. Let's keep in touch.
Yeah, definitely.
Bye bye. See you.